We are here to talk today about Biden, the new President-elect Biden and Harris administration's longer-term plans for immigration. We've already talked about the short-term, first 100 days, like what are they going to knock out with executive orders and simply canceling stuff that the Trump administration was promoting that was probably illegal anyway. So there's a handful of things in a separate video about what they're doing in the first 100 days. Right now, we're going to talk about what their longer term priorities are. And I am Jennifer Walker Gates, immigration attorney with Walker Gates Vela, here with my beautiful law partner, Jacqueline Watson. And Jackie serves on the board of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, which is the largest professional organization for immigration attorneys in the country. And so Jackie has her ear to the ground in DC, and I am eager to hear more about the legislative priorities for this administration. So let me share my screen because we do have a little list, and I look forward to going through these with you, Jackie.
Yeah, let's see. Let's keep in mind this new administration, the announcement, the official announcement is not even a week old. It will happen. There is going to be a Biden administration. There's no doubt about that. What is still up in the air, however, is going to be the makeup of the Senate. And I think the ability of the Biden administration, the new BidenHarris administration, to get some of these legislative desires done is going to depend a lot on ultimately what happens in the Senate. However, it should be noted that there's still a couple of moderates in the Senate. If there's a tie, there's Kamala is there to has our backs. So let's hope for the best. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and we are relying on the statements of the administration as a candidate, not anything that has been announced really since it has been official that Biden's going to be our 46th president. And then this does come directly from written statements from the Biden campaign, like I said, and we're translating these over to the Biden administration. The order is a little bit different because these are kind of the top 10 of what we feel is important. Of course, there's just a lot that needs to be done. Now, when we talked earlier about the first 100 days and just the things that Biden can do without legislative action, let's not forget that the immigration law, legal system for immigration has been quote unquote broken for a long time. I've never said it's broken because it's just designed that way. Nothing broke it. It was designed badly. It was designed with a lot of bad intentions within the law. So it's never been broken. It's just been crappy from the beginning.
It's been, like I've said, when under the Trump administration, when the whole country began to gasp at family separation, I remember that was like one of the first. Well, the bans got everyone's attention, the Muslim bans, and then the family separations caused so much outrage. And I remember thinking, the truth is that our immigration system, our immigration laws have been separating families for decades,
Yes.
Mercilessly, separating children from parents,
Mm-hmm.
Even parents with no criminal records, and even those that do have criminal issues, often, deportation has been the only recourse
Mm-hmm.
available under the immigration law for handling immigrants who have had criminal issues. And no one has really raised the question, like, is that always the best solution? Is deportation automatically always the very best thing to do to a family? Because it's not just the immigrant living in a vacuum. Every immigrant to the United States has US citizens of one stripe or another who love and depend on them.
Yes.
And so our immigration laws have been very geared towards deportation and family separation for decades, and that needs to change.
Yeah.
My hope is that we will see some real leadership on that front. It remains to be seen, but I will take this man at his face, at his word, and take his word at face value. And I look forward to hearing what you know about their legislative priorities, Jackie.
Well, as seasoned advocates, you and I can read these priorities, and we see a lot of words in here that are based in history that we know have happened before and can happen again. These are not impossible. These are not unprecedented. These are not. These are things that are based in actions that have come before, and this is actually taken from the top of the administration's priority itself, the legalization of an estimated 11 million undocumented residents of the United States. That's huge. That's amazing. That's a recognition that that's a recognition, number one, of how many people conceivably are here, because we don't actually know. This is just an estimation. And it's a recognition that most, if not all, most deserve a path to status. Now, he doesn't say path to citizenship, he says legalization. He does use path to citizenship in other legislative priorities. So perhaps, we don't know exactly what something like this would look like, because again, it would take the cooperation of Congress for anything like this to happen. This is one of the bigger ones. The term legalization is actually something that has come before. That was programs under Ronald Reagan. As we'll see in a little bit, he uses other programs that were instituted by a prior Republican administration. So, he's using a playbook that has come before. Reforming temporary worker visas for seasonal workers and high-skilled workers to include increasing those visa quotas. So it's not just making more available, it's reforming them to make the process more favorable to those who are actually the visa holders and not the companies that are bringing people in. Of course, we want companies to be able to bring the work they need to benefit the United States and its economy. However, we don't want to yoke human beings to these companies and possibly open them up for abuse or to receive abuse.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable that this administration does recognize that. Again, I say it's remarkable, it's really just humanity, but we're returning to a sense of humanity and justice, a sense of justice about this, but to recognize that temporary seasonal workers, which are usually, we might consider it lower skilled, but there's actually a lot of skill in seasonal work. There's a lot of skill in landscaping. There's a lot of skill in hotel work. There's a lot of skill in, farm work. But recognizing that both the lower skilled or under valued workers and the high skilled workers alike are both in the same position, because they truly are. They are both beholden to the employer that brought them in, and that's a lot of insight.
Some serious problems.
Yes.
It creates some very anti-competitive situations.
Absolutely.
Where companies are allowed to mistreat and abuse workers who cannot leave and seek employment elsewhere because their visa will be canceled if they do that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people complain about, immigrant workers undercutting American workers in terms of salary or, just the amount that they're willing to do. And what it amounts to is like, yes, and if an employer is able to abuse and exploit an employee, that does put an American employee at a disadvantage, or anyone who could more effectively advocate for their rights. So if we level the playing field for immigrant workers by allowing them to change employers if necessary, it will benefit the entire economy.
Yes. And even raising the visa quotas helps that, because when you don't raise the visa quotas, if you have a company that's engaged in less than savory activity, they're holding those visas and not letting
Correct.
other companies that are possibly that would treat their employees better. They are completely blocked out. They're locked out of access to those visas.
Yes, our economy could grow more robustly if the companies were able to get the employees that they needed access
without
to.
so much red tape.
Correct.
That's been the key. That's been a key problem, in addition to a whole host of other problems in business visa world, especially recently. But the red tape and the expense makes it certainly, it doesn't help level that playing field at all.
Right.
That in fact, it makes it a far worse situation to be in when the employer can hold so much over your head like that.
Yep.
And creating a new agricultural legalization program. I separate the point number 1 from point number 3 because, again, this is taken from a prior playbook of a prior Republican administration. And that is recognizing that farm workers deserve to be protected and deserve to be have the security of remaining in the United States. This helps farmers. This helps U.S. farmers. This helps the American economy. It did before. It's proven. And so it'll do it again. And this is one of the legislative priorities of this administration, to make sure that agricultural workers who have been here for a very long time are taken care of and have a path to legalization.
Fantastic.
Remove per country quotas and caps on those on per country. It was an idea to put per country caps. It was an idea to try to even to go back to this playing field idea, but to even the playing field between countries that use more visas than others. The visa quota system itself is outdated. I mean, I would prefer to see a legislative priority that obliterates visa quotas in the first place, because it is something that started in the 60s and is just not conducive to a global market economy that we have now. It just doesn't fit. I will say that in the preamble and in the postamble of the Biden administration's, or the campaign, I should say, long article about their immigration priorities, they do have an overall goal of modernization of the immigration system. That is a big task. However, certainly, I mean, at a minimum, removing the per country visa quotas is going to help with that. The visa quotas is what makes this proverbial line everybody talks about, get in line to come in legally. That's what has made that a joke, because the line is 30 years long, or really it's indefinite. Like, we've never seen the end of this line. So
Correct.
It is an indefinite line. We say
it's been
30
growing
years
for 3 decades, and
Yes.
we've never
seen the end of it.
Right.
So and it is just it's really a system that needs to change if we do want to compete in the global in the just the new global well, right now nobody's going global, but when the pandemic is over, hopefully we'll have some ability to compete. Preserve the diversity visa lottery. That's specifically there because now there has not been any legislation to remove the diversity visa lottery, but that was a priority of the Trump administration, was to try to eliminate the diversity visa lottery system. And just because Congress has been itself divided, it has not been able to happen. So the Biden-Harris administration has specifically said that will be preserved. And what the diversity visa lottery does is it as the name suggests, diversify immigrants to the United States. It takes people who are really interested in moving to the United States and allowing them from certain countries that have the lowest immigration rates to the United States, and allows them to take part in a lottery system that would just allow them basically to come in and immigrate and set up a new life in the United States. It helps diversify the immigrants that we have coming into the United States and their skills and what they bring. So many of them, usually the people who are interested in this program, do have ties here. They have some ties here. They have some family ties, or they have some business ties. And, it's just it's doesn't have a huge impact on the overall immigration levels. And there's really no reason to get rid of it. So the Biden administration has promised to keep that going. Increase quotas for employment-based immigrant visas. To those who saw the other video, the 100 days, there's really little mention of specifically on employment-based immigration. And it's not that there hasn't been a tax on the Trump administration on those visas. There's been a lot of proclamations that have hurt employment-based visas as well, short-term and long-term or permanent visas. A lot of the priorities for the first 100 days, it's because, there are so many problems. 400 proclamations, executive orders and changes. If you have to prioritize those in the first 100 days, probably employment-based visas isn't going to make the top 10. However, there's a lot of concentration on improving and modernizing the employment-based visa system in the legislative fixes. And one of those is increasing quotas. The quotas on these are very low. And another thing that doesn't happen is unused visas are not getting rolled over into the quotas for the next year. In other words, the line, instead of people who left the line, people who left the line, the visa's gone. It's almost as if they used it because it doesn't go back into other quotas that need it. Increasing the quotas helps. Just reusing old quotas helps. We don't know what this is going to look like, but this will certainly help employers who are trying to give their most valued employees some permanent positions in their companies. Expand protections for undocumented workers who report workplace abuse. Going back to, it's bad enough that lawful workers are subject to abuse. Imagine undocumented people who don't even have that protection. Right now, there's really no protection. That's been actually the result of some case law, and therefore gaps in the current laws, the gaps that these court decisions have pointed out. Well, there's no protection here, and there's no reason to assume that Congress intended to protect undocumented workers as well. Therefore, we're not going to protect them. That would be a legislative fix that the Biden administration would like to see, that all the laws that protect workers apply equally to undocumented and documented workers. Create new visa categories for cities and counties to increase local immigration. This is in response to localities who have, or I should say states, because it hasn't happened really with localities, it's happened with states that have wanted to reduce immigration by refusing refugees or by refusing, making it harder in general for
passing ordinances for making it harder for people to rent there and different little petty measures. But I have to say, I love this idea. Because, I saw this, I hadn't actually seen it before, but if you want to see the power of immigration, go to a place where people are moving and see what that does to the economy. Go to in fact, there were a lot of kind of studies done of some Georgia towns that had sort of influxes of immigrants, and in particular, one documentary project I saw on about Jeff Sessions and why he hates immigrants so much, really looked at Alabama and Georgia and some areas where there had been large influxes of immigrants that ostensibly displaced the American workers in those areas. And what they showed was that they didn't actually displace anyone, that there was just an expansion of the economy as a result of the influx of people and economic activity. And that is always what happens. Now, I know that a lot of communities find it very shocking to have, a large influx all at once. However, a lot of communities, in order to survive long term, must have an injection of economic activity. If they don't get it, they're not going to last. They're going to remain economically depressed. They're going to lose their young people if there are not the opportunities. And so a lot of communities do want immigration and they need it. And I love the idea that an opportunity could be created for those localities to bring people in. And, it's a win for everyone.
And the specific stated goal of the administration is to improve small local economies that are suffering economically, and to bring in this robust pool of workers, economic activity, entrepreneurs. I think another good example is Minnesota, where they've had a lot of refugees settle there, and now we're starting to see the children of those refugees run for Congress, run for office. I think they've just elected a record number of Hmong and Somali Ethiopian refugees to public office, which is wonderful. That's what we want. I mean, what better sign of quote unquote integration? For, I don't like that word necessarily, but that this is indeed what we need is buying into our system and making it run better.
Yeah.
Not just buying into it, making it run better.
Yeah. Yes. And becoming part of the solution for all of us.
Yes, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Protecting visa categories. And of course, I just want to point out visa categories, this is all very dry. We haven't really explained what these are. And however, because they are so nerdy terms, we do understand this administration does know what they're doing. These buzzwords and the recognition that these are problems, the quotas and caps, just as you pointed out, categories for cities and counties to increase local immigration. These are really radical ideas that will work if we want to modernize the immigration system. There's a lot of other things that aren't mentioned here, which I'll talk about in a second, that I wish was. But there's so much that needs to be fixed. I mean, I realize that we can't be here all day talking about all the problems and what needs to be fixed. Protecting visa categories for job creators, entrepreneurs, and STEM degree holders. There's been a move from this administration to actually eliminate all entrepreneur categories, no matter how much. And these are job creating categories. This is a ton of money that would be going into the system otherwise, that we're talking millions and millions of dollars that we're talking that would be going in. And also STEM degree holders. There's been a lot of reporting about students who have spent thousands of dollars on their degrees here in the United States, gone through the system, and are unable, even though we need people with STEM degrees because of the other problems with high skilled worker visas, quotas, they can't get, they can't find anyone to sponsor them, or they can't find visas available for them, and we're losing them. We're educating them, and then we lose them to other countries so they can take their talents elsewhere. And so one of the legislative fixes would be to not only protect the existing, but expand the availability of options for job creators, entrepreneurs, and STEM degree holders.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just as there has been an unrelenting assault in particular, the asylum system in this country. There has been perhaps not an equal assault, but a similar assault on the employment-based immigration system, and a demonization of immigrant workers as, stealing jobs. It's like we're going to those old stereotypes, which are patently untrue and proven untrue by the data, that that immigrants come in and steal our jobs, when in fact our companies could not have grown to the level where they are now without having access to immigrant engineers, mathematicians, tech experts, and scientists. If we didn't have those people coming and providing their talent and their treasure and their entrepreneurial creativity here, our economy would be nowhere near what it is right now. So these people who tout the economy constantly talk about how they want to get rich and grow the economy, it's like they would be willing to sacrifice that on behalf of their xenophobia, if they had their way, if they were really being honest.
Yeah, there has definitely been an attack on employment-based legal immigration. Correct. It's not just, this administration has talked about it being for legal immigration. They have absolutely attacked family immigration. They have attacked business, employment immigration. They've attacked entrepreneurs. They've attacked scientists. They've attacked students. The attacks really began at the student level, limiting student. This is even pre-pandemic, limiting admission for students, limiting the Muslim ban itself had an impact
on universities.
Yes, and then the pandemic just provided more excuses to continue to attack legal business immigration. So despite this administration saying that it supports legal immigration and is just trying to attack undocumented, is a lie. It's not true.
No.
Yes, and so again, not necessarily in the legislative priorities, but in the preamble, and when the administration talks about its mission or its values when it comes to immigration, one of those is recognizing the value that immigrants add to our nation, and that includes foreign workers, that includes entrepreneurs, that includes our students that we educate here. And finally, increasing categories in visas, and I know this is something that's very close to your heart. You've litigated this issue and are still litigating this issue. That's increasing visas in categories that protect vulnerable immigrants, including Violence Against Women Act, people who have applied for special visas under Violence Against Women Act, U visas for victims of crime, serious crime, and T visas for victims of trafficking. Right now, the quota numbers are woefully inadequate to cover the number, and we're talking like in the 5 figures. This is woefully inadequate to cover the number of people who are applying for these visas and forcing them to wait many, many years. I think the wait right now is almost 10 years at this point.
Yes, correct.
With
there's a 10,000 per year cap for U visas and 100,000 U visas pending. So when I say 5 figures, it's low 5 figures. You don't get much lower than 5 figures than 10,000. And so, yes, unreasonable wait times for these forms of relief is causing a lot of hardship, especially under this administration that is not respecting prior policies that would protect these people in general from removal from the United States. So we see people who are in the waiting line for all these 3 forms of relief being removed from the United States. Yes.
And therefore, causing need for litigation and wait lines. Well, the new administration recognizes that those are no solutions for this. What needs to happen is those quotas need to be increased.
Yes. I hope to see a prioritization on this. Like you said, this is near and dear to my heart. I am currently initiating a second lawsuit here in the Western District of Texas on behalf of U visa applicants who have been waiting 5 years for not their approval of their visa, but mere like a wait list action, which when it first began, it would happen in less than a year. And now 5 years are going by with no wait list. And in part that is due to the increasing numbers combined with the Trump administration's increased focus on fraud investigations, where they removed an enormous number of adjudicators from the U visa. At least this is what we've been told, is that a large number of personnel were moved out of the U visa adjudications facilities and onto fraud investigations instead. And so I'm hoping to see this administration, like I said, restore USCIS to its mandate of processing and adjudicating applications for benefits instead of enforcement and protection, as they say, from immigrants who are not trying to hurt us. So as we move into the Biden administration, we're going to be calling on friends and colleagues to really help support our efforts as advocates to improve the immigration laws, and we'll be informing people about ways to reach out to our elected officials to express support for reasonable, rational, and humane reforms to our immigration system. So thank you, Jackie, for letting us know kind of what may be in store for us legislatively, for the Biden administration legislatively. Last in this little series, next, I would like to talk about the changes that we as advocates and the changes that AILA is promoting as well, and how those may be the same or different from what we're hearing from the Biden administration. So with that, we'll sign off.